Welcome to the Florida Army National Guard YouTube channel. In today's video, we have the opportunity to interview Colonel Johnson, the Chief of Staff for the Florida Army National Guard. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. Also, let us know what other videos do you want to see down in the comments. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Thank you for taking time out of your day today to provide some insight and value to future and current recruits. We have a list of questions here today. And first question is, what does it mean to be the Chief of Staff for the Florida Army National Guard?
It's a good question. I can simply, what does it mean to be the Chief? It means that I have been surrounded by a lot of folks, a lot smarter than me, that have made me look a lot good. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
I'm humbled to have this job. It's the top 06 in the state as far as you're the senior staff officer in the Florida Army National Guard. As the chief, I run the staff so that the commander, Major General Haas, so the Florida Army Guard can command. He commands his commanders. I run the staff. And we work hand in hand. He gives me his intent, and I make sure that the staff executes his intent to get after his vision as the commander. As a staff, we're to be seen and not heard a lot of times. We're the guys behind the scenes making things happen. We work at all various echelons of the staff. The staff's here at the Joint Force Headquarters. They're working down to the next level. They're working with their counterparts in the brigades and the MSCs. We're the folks who are like the linebackers or the linemen on the football team. You know, you never hear our name called. You never hear us on the PA unless we jump off sides to do something stupid. So we're the guys behind the scene. I'm the chief lineman, making sure that all the work gets done to make the Florida Guard successful.
Sir, what would you consider to be the most rewarding part of being the Chief of Staff for Florida Army National Guard?
It's when we see all the fruits of our labor, all the hard work produce positive results. Like I said, we do a lot of things behind the scene, making things happen, enabling commanders to be successful downrange, enabling units to go and have a successful AT, a successful deployment. When you see those things, happen without failure, seeing Florida ranked, in the top 10, green on a chart, that's rewarding.
And what are the things that gets Florida into the green? What are the key components here?
Being green in your strength, which means being 100% of your assigned strength. It means being duty MOSQ, having all the soldiers in the Florida Army National Guard trained in their assigned MOS. It means that all the equipment that's been issued to you that is assigned to the Florida Army National Guard, it is green, it's fully mission capable. So personnel readiness, training readiness, and maintenance readiness. Knocking all those three things out of the park gets us green.
And I heard you went through the ROTC program at Florida State University. What led you to choosing this path?
So I grew up in a small town called Crawfordville, Florida, which is about 20 miles south of Tallahassee in the great county of Wakulla, right on the Gulf. It made sense to go to Florida State. I was a Florida State fan. I could stay at home, drive 20 minutes up the road and go to Florida State. I knew I wanted to be a soldier. My lifelong dream was to be a soldier. I don't know if you can see it up here, but I have an old Korean War steel pot, and as a kid I used to wear that running around the yard playing guns. I wanted to be a soldier. I idolized my grandpa Johnson, World War II veteran. I had an Uncle Bill, World War II veteran, a paratrooper in World War II. I had an uncle that was a Vietnam vet. He was a Marine, God bless him, but still, I knew I wanted to be a soldier. So I was going to join the Army. Was it going to be active or guard? But in high school, I had my career path laid out. I was going to come back to Wakulla County. I was going to teach history. I was going to coach football and baseball. And I was going to join the Guard. So I wanted that was my career path. So I was in TCC as a sophomore, and Florida State offered a 1-semester hour course. It was called Intro to Army ROTC, Intro to Army or something like that. So I said, I'll take this thing. Because at that time, I needed money to pay for my junior and senior year. And I knew the Guard had this thing called STEP, where they paid 50%. It wasn't the old EDD. So I was leaning towards going to the Guard. Because like, as I said, I already had my career. I was going to marry my high school sweetheart. I was going to come back and teach history, coach football and baseball, and be a soldier in the Guard, right? But I needed money for college. So I took this ROTC 1-semester hour course, And the instructor mentioned something about scholarships. And I threw my hand up and said, hey, how do I get this scholarship? He goes, well, are you prior service? I said, no, I've never, don't know what that means. He goes, have you been to basic training, AIT? I go, nope. He says, well, then you're not prior service, and if you want to compete for this scholarship, you got to go to basic camp at Fort Knox, Kentucky, which is like an ROTC compressed basic training, 6 weeks. So I go off to Fort Knox for 6 weeks. I did very well, and they awarded me a guarantee reserve forces scholarship, which would pay for all of my courses at Florida State. Basically paid for my entire junior and senior year. And because it was a guaranteed reserve forces duty scholarship, I also joined the Florida Guard simultaneous in this program called the S&P Simultaneous Membership Program. So I was a cadet in Florida State, but I was also a Florida Guardsman in the S&P program. I joined a local unit about 50 miles from Crawfordville, 50 miles from Tallahassee. It was the 653rd Signal Company in Perry, Florida, right off of Highway 27. No longer exists, by the way. So I was a cadet at Florida State, an SMP in the Florida Guard at 653rd. And it all worked out. So I ended up getting my commission, and here I am today in the Florida Guard.
Yes, sir. So it sounds like being an ROTC and an SMP cadet, you were set up financially. Now, did you have to hold any jobs outside of this to help, pay for anything else?
Once I was awarded the scholarship, once I became a cadet, and once I became an SMP, all the money lined up where I no longer had to work. And I'll tell you, it was tough to work because as a cadet, you had PT Monday through Friday. I was getting up 06, and I was PT in Florida State. You had an FTX. Basically, it was like drilling. You had to drill with your unit, right? Sometimes you had an FTX, so you were drilling technically, twice a week, twice a month. So there was no way I could have worked. But fortunately, as an SMP, I got $100, it might have been $100, $150 stipend. You got your drill pay as a cadet, SMP, and that was E5 pay. So with the drill check, with the cadet pay, and with the scholarship, I didn't have to work. I had enough money. Again, I was living at home to take care of my finances.
And so you commissioned as a signal officer, and was that due to being at the 653rd Signal Company?
Yep, so I was a cadet at 653rd. I really didn't know much about the Signal Corps. What do they do? They talk, right? But I fell in love with the Signal Corps as a cadet. I realized they were I liked being the guy behind the scenes, right? So we have this saying in the Army: shoot, move, and communicate, right? Well, the signal guys are the guys that are allowing the trigger pullers, the maneuver forces to communicate. And I like having that support role, being the guy, the enabler. So I fell in love with the Signal Corps, and I was able to branch signal.
Through your years of service, what have you observed to be some of the top leadership qualities of an officer, or even at an enlisted soldier?
The best leaders in the Army that I've ever seen are those officers and NCOs that adhere to the servant leadership template. It's where they understand that they are empowered to serve others. It's not that they have the power to be served. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
They understand that they use their authority as a command sergeant major, as a company commander, battalion CSM to serve and empower others. Whereas the bad leaders, they do the opposite. Hey, soldier, you're there to serve me. But the servant leader is the opposite. No, I'm here to serve you, specialist, private, sergeant. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So the best leaders I've ever served with have taken on that servant leadership mentality. And unfortunately, the worst leaders that I've seen or served with have taken the opposite.
It sounds like the servant leadership it's almost like a parent role, because you're putting yourself second, whereas you're putting your troops first.
Basically, a servant leadership is an individual that truly embraces the Army value of selfless service. You're putting others' needs before your own.
Sir, and through your career, you've held many positions. Can you give us an insight on your most rewarding position? I
was fortunate to go back to Florida State and be an assistant professor of military science. I was an ROTC instructor. I came on board AGR, Active Guard Reserve, in 2001. Before that, I taught middle school history. I taught at Wakulla Middle School. I'm a teacher by nature. I love coaching, teaching, and mentoring. So when I was able to be an APMS, I was able to coach, teach, and mentoring. I loved being able to coach potential officers. You got these guys that are taking an oath, these cadets that are signing on the dotted line saying, hey, I want to be a leader in the United States Army. I want to be a second lieutenant. And I was fortunate for 2 years to be able to coach, teach, and mentor and help them get where they wanted to go. So APMS, one of my most rewarding assignments, followed by battalion command. Because as a battalion commander, truly, if you embrace the role, you are a coach, you're a teach, and a mentor. You're helping company commanders and junior staff officers achieve their goals and be successful. And then the chief of staff. I'm doing the same thing. It's just at a higher level. I'm coaching, teaching, mentoring colonels and lieutenant colonels and sergeant majors.
Sir, looking back on your career, are there any benefits that you wish you took advantage of earlier on?
We were taught as young lieutenants that professional soldiers join professional organizations. So what did that mean? It meant you join NGOA, the National Guard Officers Association, and it meant you join AUSA, the Association of the United States Army. I've been members of those two organizations ever since I got commissioned in 1994, and benefits come with those, right? Discounts here, discounts there, the camaraderie that you get. So I took advantage of the professional organizations. Obviously, I took advantage of the scholarship the Army offered. But in hindsight, I would have expanded my military education. As a junior officer, you could go, and until today, you can go online and take all the professional development courses you want to do. I would have done that, taken more professional development courses outside of the standard Army PME that you have to do.
And as a leader, sir, what was one of the greatest challenges that you'd had to overcome?
As a second lieutenant, as a 22-year-old second lieutenant, having platoon sergeants old enough to be my dad, that was a challenge. Growing up, you're taught to respect your elders, right? But here I am giving orders to a guy old enough to be my dad and having to correct him when he was wrong. That was a challenge, and it took courage to look a guy, again, old enough to be your dad, to look him in the eye and say, Sergeant, you're wrong, and then furthermore, have to put it on paper and counseling him. I would say that's been my greatest challenge, is having to correct people, correct your peers, counsel your peers, counsel your subordinates, that in the civilian world, you may be subordinate to them due to age and seniority.
So, sir, what does the future of the Florida Army National Guard look like with the rise of social media and different recruiting tactics?
The future of the Florida Guard. So strategically, at the strategic level, Florida Guard, we're growing. We're looking to grow our force structure. Right, I said earlier, maybe I mentioned it, but I'll mention it again. We're about 10,000 soldiers strong. We've done an analysis, and we need more soldiers. We need another 5,000 soldiers to meet the needs inside the state of Florida with regard to DSCA, Defense Supportive Civilian Authorities, responding to hurricanes, forest fires, national, you name it. We need more soldiers. So the Florida Guard is going to grow. Strategically, that's our goal. What does it mean? It means that we need soldiers, new recruits who understand that it's not their grandpa's National Guard. It's not 1 weekend a month. It's definitely not 2 weeks a year. At a minimum, it's 1 weekend a month, and at a minimum, it's 2 weeks a year. We're going to be busy. The Florida Guard we're part of the total Army. The Florida Guard has units that are written into combatant commanders' operational plans. We're going to deploy. The governor's going to use us more. As the nation grows and Florida grows, as far as population, there's a greater need for the Florida Guard. So the recruits that we need people that want to serve, and we need people that want to serve more than 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year. And as far as it relates to social media, the recruits that we're recruiting today, the E4s that are coming in, and the E1s, E2s, E3s, they're a lot smarter and they're a lot savvy, and they're sharper when it comes to the ways of the world. They know what's going on with regard to current events. They don't need their commanders to tell them, hey, this is why we're doing this and that. They can see it in the media. So we have a smarter, more wiser force than we had when I joined 30-something years ago.
Sir, outside of the military setting, what are your interests and hobbies?
I love to fish in the flats, inshore, trout, redfish, flounder. I love, can't play baseball. I love baseball. So I enjoy watching baseball, MLB, college, going to the Shrimps games up in Jacksonville. I love shooting. What soldier doesn't like to shoot? I love guns, man. Going to the range, shooting. So shooting, fishing, watching baseball, football. I like playing golf. Not as good as I'd like to be, but I love hitting that little white ball and chasing it around the golf course. And also, too, I really enjoy spending time at my church. I'm very active in my church. We have a very robust men's program. So I spend a lot of time with the men in our church doing fellowships, hunting retreats. We do a thing called a Real Men's event where, man, we blow up stuff, shoot stuff. We even bring Scottish game, Highlander folks out there and throw logs and hammers. And so love spending time with my family, my church family. Like I said, hitting golf balls, hunting, fishing, baseball, sports, reading when I have time to read, when I'm not mentally drained from this job.
What are some top books? What's the top of your list?
Right now I'm reading George Washington, A Life. It's a biography on George Washington, written by Ron Chernow. It's one of the greatest biographies of Washington I've ever read. And I highly encourage everybody, all Americans, should read a book on George Washington. This guy set the standard for servant leadership, right? He was the model. He broke the template with that guy. Anything about Washington, anything about George Marshall, another servant leader. If you can get your hands on any book by George Marshall. George Marshall wanted the D-Day command. He wanted to lead D-Day more than anything, but he never once asked for it. And when FDR, President Roosevelt, asked him, George, what do you want to do? He said, first, sir, don't call me George. Call me General Marshall. I'll do what the nation needs me to do. And President Roosevelt says, well, thank you. I need you to stay right here in Washington with me. And then the command went to General Eisenhower. So anything on Washington, anything on Marshall, servant leaders, anything on George Patton. Patton knew how to win, and he knew how to get the most of his men. He was a motivator. Awesome. And regardless of what you read, he truly cared about his men. Right? He would weep over wounded soldiers. That's how much he loved his men.
Sir, and with that, do you have any final advice or information you want to leave with the audience?
First off, appreciate you having me today and giving me the opportunity to provide comments and just sit here and talk leadership, guard, career, et cetera, But I had a couple things that I do want to leave the audience with. This is really for the potential recruits. Let me tell you what you're joining when you join the Florida Army National Guard. So I'm going to, real quick, you got the total Army. Total Army's, here's the Army. Army is made of Compo 1, Compo 2, Compo 3. Active Army, Army Guard, Army Reserve. Active Army and Army Reserve are Title 10. They 100% belong to the President of the United States. Army National Guard is Compo 2. Army National Guard has two masters, the President of the United States and the Governor of Florida, which makes our job ever so much more difficult than the active Army and the Army Reserves. Army has one mission. Florida Guard, you have three. You have your civilian job, the needs of the governor, and the needs of the President of the United States. When you choose to join the Florida Guard, you're joining one of the most professional organizations in the United States, right? There's 54 guards, all 50 states and the 4 territories, right? Florida Guard throughout the U.S. Army is highly regarded as being one of the top National Guards in the United States. Why? Because we always accomplish our mission. We hold our officers to the highest of standards. We hold our non-commissioned officers to the highest of standards, and we hold our soldiers to the highest of standards. We never turn down a mission. We always say yes to the president. We always say yes to the governor, and we always say yes to the citizens of Florida. So I'm telling you this. So I want to set. This is for all the recruits that are thinking, what should I join? Army Reserves. If you want 1 week in a month and 2 weeks in the year, join the Army Reserves. If you want to wear the uniform 24/7 and have one job, and it's to be a soldier 24/7, that's great. Join the active duty. But if you want to serve the citizens of Florida as a teacher like I did, as a lawyer, as a doctor, but still have a career in the Army and meet the nation's call, then join the Florida Guard. Right? I tell you, I'm telling you up front, it'll be the most challenging assignment, whether it's a 4-year enlistment. The most rewarding assignment you'll ever have is joining the Florida Guard. You get to serve your citizens, you get to serve your nation, and you get to hold down a civilian job. So I just want to lay that out there. There's nothing more challenging than being a Florida Guardsman, because I'm telling you, it's going to be tough. We're going to ask a lot of you. You know, you're going to, at a minimum, do 1 week in a month. At a minimum, you're going to do 2 weeks in the summer, and then a thing called a hurricane is going to roll in. And we're going to ask you for another 2 weeks, or another 3 weks, or a forest fire may come, and we're going to ask you for another weekend. Oh, and by the way, we may ask you to go to Europe for 6 months to as part of the European Defense Initiative. We ask a lot of our guardsmen, but it's a rewarding job when you see green on a spreadsheet, or you go to a restaurant at drill and somebody comes up to you and they want to buy you a meal because of what you do, right? So I challenge you. If you want to be challenged, you want to be pushed to the limits, join the Florida Army National Guard. If you want to just wear the uniform 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks in the summer, join the Army Reserves. So, and lastly, when you do join, take that oath serious. When you raise that right hand and swear an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to do likewise to the Constitution of the State of Florida, take that oath serious. I kind of mentioned it earlier that when I joined, professional soldiers join professional organizations. And the Florida National Guard, the Army Guard, is a professional organization. Why are we professional? Because we take our oath serious. So I want to leave you with that.
If y'all made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the thumbs up, subscribe for future content, and let us know down in the comments below what other videos do you want to see pertaining to the Florida Army National Guard. With that, we'll see you all on the next one.